thing illegally, you could probably nick this binary blob and send it, purely for testing purposes, send the one you'd nicked from the Windows driver and send that down there. But obviously, I guess to encode the data, you need to know how to use the table, be it your uncompressed one or their 4.5K one.
Well, yes and no. So we actually do send this table, so it's actually just as a binary blob included in the driver, but we still do need to know the 320K plain mapping from differences to values, because the table, at this moment, this small table can just be interpreted by the device and by nothing else. And the big table just is a big binary blob coming along with the driver at the moment, which is used in the software to compress data, and the small table is used just on the device to decompress again. But of course, there's a connection between these two.
Right, yeah, thanks. That's cleared it up a little bit for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A question regarding the tables. Because maybe you can take the difference. So maybe you have a Windows driver, you make a blue picture, and then you take the original table, and then you try with a table you make up and see, no, it's not blue, and then you try as long as you get a blue picture.
But the Windows driver doesn't change the table, unfortunately. It always uses the same one. So
okay, so the Windows driver uses the compressed table, knows how to use it. And so you need a table where you know how to use the compressed table, and you do not know how to get the original table from the compressed table. So
exactly.
try every table that are possible and compare them with the compressed table.
Well,
So you make a table and you put a picture that should be blue and that is not blue. So you say it's the wrong table. Take the next one, and then you try, and then you maybe get the right table.
That would work, but you would have to try every binary tree which has a depth of at least 30. So these are very, very many trees.
Have you calculated the efforts? What is the effort, the cost of the algorithm? Have you calculated it?
No, not yet. Well, it might be doable. I just thought that this is unfeasible for brute force, but maybe you're right. Well,
take a logic analyzer and detect the DVI signal and see, okay, it's a blue.
Okay.
It's a green, it's a red, and then you try, and then it triggers on red and says, book, that's red.
Okay, yeah, that might be an idea, in fact. Thanks.
I was wondering, DisplayLink started on their own open source driver. You were already working on that.
Yes.
Right now you're trying to crack the last bits. It seems like DisplayLink isn't against having an open source driver, and it seems that you are willing to write it for them. Did you try to contact the developers and, for example, ask them about the compressed Huffman table and the...
Well, yes, I did, but there wasn't any real reaction. So it looks like they are considering the compression, or maybe even the compression of the table itself, their main achievement, and so they're still very quiet on this. And they're also not, it doesn't look like they would like to integrate this into their own driver. So, yeah, they're somewhere between helpful and very quiet. They're not really obstructing anything, but they're not quite convinced, obviously.
One question about the binary drivers that you, the binary tables that you have to send over to get it to work. Assuming you are able to write a driver that really does the compression on the computer side, but you don't know how the small table does the decompression on the device.
Exactly.
Would you even be able to include this into any kernel that has a strict philosophy about having non-free binary blobs of firmware?
I think that's not a question for me to answer, because I'm definitely not an expert in that direction. I suppose that it's not really a firmware, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but maybe I should rephrase it and ask, was that a motivation for you to try and understand how you can fit the complete Huffman table into only 4 kilobyte?
Well, yes, definitely, because then you would also be able to actually generate a new table. For example, if you know that you are going to play a certain kind of video, then you might actually generate an optimized table for this video. So maybe you could even extract it somehow from MPEG data or something like this. So this would definitely still be interesting. And it would, of course, clear up the licensing issue, because then everything would be free in this driver.
Right, I see there are no more questions. There's
more.
another one, would you please? Oh, I'll get it for you. We'll make an exception.
So you mentioned that the Windows driver has this libUSB static link to their obviously unsourced driver.
Yes.
Have you considered contacting the Software Freedom Law Center that they might push them using this information into an agreement that they would release this Huffman table thingy, and they wouldn't be sued for that little libUSB incident?
Well, no, we didn't do this. I thought about it briefly, but I think, yeah, it's, well, I spoken bluntly, I didn't want to piss them off, because they were rather a little bit more on the helpful side of things, so I thought it would be nasty to try and pull out the lawyers. And I'm not quite sure if it's actually a violation of the license if they do this. So if you know anything more specific about this, I'd curious to hear about this. But yeah, so far I didn't consider it necessary, basically.
Right, we're at the end then. Thanks again to the speaker.